Hi everyone, Robert Peak here from the Spontaneous Dungeon Master, and I've just been getting some great feedback on this video series. The whole point of this series really is for me to make some of my secret weapons not a secret anymore, right? To share as much as I can about the good stuff that I've found along the way of years of dungeon mastering to help others, to help other DMs enjoy the game more, and participate and engage with it in a way that's spontaneous and fun. Great comments from those of you that are tuning in on YouTube. The Spontaneous Dungeon Master's Companion, right? That original document that I put out there that helped me, that I just wanted to send out to help others, has had almost 800 downloads. Some great reviews on it. People are tipping, putting money into the tip jar afterward. I've got several cups of coffee, right, worth of people just sort of patting me on the back for doing that. I'm so grateful to be in this conversation. It makes me want to do more of these. So for this episode, I'm going to talk about another kind of really big secret weapon of mine that's helped me so much to understand what my other players want to get out of our sessions, and therefore help me adapt as I go to be spontaneous and to be in the moment and to be creating with them in the ways that they want to have these experiences. And that is the use of the simple, humble survey. So I've found over time that I really want to know my players. I want to know what they want, but they don't always know what they don't know, right? Especially new players, they don't necessarily know what's possible. So one of the wonderful things about a survey is it's not only a structured way for them to give me feedback and information, which in some ways is a little maybe less daunting than trying to have a conversation about all the things you might think you want, but it's also informative, right? It's also a way of informing them. Here are some of the possibilities. Here are some of the things I'm thinking. Let me know, out of all this, what looks particularly interesting to you. So surveys have been just a great secret weapon for me. I want to dive right into the kind of main survey that I've been using and the different parts and components of it, show you some results on a practical basis, what that looks like from actual player responses and what I would do in response to all of that. And I'm going to put a link to a document, different formats, a PDF that you can hand to your players if you wanted to fill out a survey in paper form, but also just the text of those questions, because I think probably these days the best approach to surveys, the easiest free approach, is just to use Google Forms. You can wire up a Google form really fast if you have a Gmail account, send it out to your players, collect those data into Google Sheets, which is basically like Excel, and then visualize it, create graphs and whatever else you want. And one of the great things about doing surveys is when you share it with your players, they all get to know each other's interests and preferences a little bit better. And always remember to take the survey yourself. You are part of this, right? You are one component. You share the kind of stuff you like in the game with all of this too. So here's a survey. I've been doing mine in type form, but again, these days you're going to have to pay a little something to do a type form survey. But I just want to show you the format of what I've been doing. So the first, probably the most significant way that you can just start with a survey with your players is to ask them 3 questions, and the 3 questions correspond to the 3 pillars of role playing, right? So that's combat, social interaction, and exploration, and just ask them, what kind of ratios do you want of those 3 things to show up in your game? It's a great question to ask at the very beginning, particularly for new players, to even let them know, hey, these are the 3 pillars, and we can't do all of it all the time, obviously, in every session, but we can try and get the right mix for you. Then later on, it's a great thing to do sort of in the middle of the campaign to not only ask, what are your preferences now? Because they may have changed. They may have realized, actually, I don't like combat as much as I thought, or I like role-playing, or whatever. So for them to get another reference point, another check-in, especially for new players. And then to also ask them, what do you think the current ratios have been? How are we doing? What has been the breakdown in your mind so far that you've noticed? And what's your ideal kind of set of ratios or breakdown? So how much do you want experience of these 3 types? And you give a number. Those 3 numbers should add up to 100%. So I just do it in gradations of 10. So that would be, first of all, combat, fighting stuff in turn order, 1 through 10 on that. Next, exploration, dungeons, wilderness, towns, moving around, discovering stuff in the world, again, 1 through 10 there. And then finally, interaction, or so-called role-playing. Wizards of the Coast likes to make the point that it's all role-playing, and that's true, but we think of social interaction, or interacting both with the world and with each other, and other characters and creatures, and this whole environment, the sentient interactions, what's your number there? Those three numbers should add up to 10 in this case, right? That alone is just a great snapshot, and it's going to tell your players and tell you a lot about what you're perceiving as reality, and what you would like reality to be, and how we can adjust that, and how different players have different preferences. So very useful. If you did that alone, I think you'd get potentially a lot of benefit, from the survey in terms of being able to shape your stories. But there's more. At a high level, the kinds of things you might want to experience in games. Here you can rate from high to low, or you can give them a 1 to 5 if Google Forms doesn't let you do that kind of thing, however you want to do it. But I've just basically come up with a lot of different elements. Interestingly, Wizards of the Coast just brought out a survey about, what do you like about D&D? It was a lot about kind of your buying preferences. Obviously, it's very clear that they want to know what kind of stuff do you want them to make that you might buy, but also what kind of stuff do you like to experience in the game, which is cool. And it was fun to see that a lot of what I'd kind of come up with aligns with a lot of what they were asking too. And at the end of the day, you want to know, what kind of stuff do you want me to come up with? What are you going to buy, in the sense of buy into in the story? So surveys, are very powerful. Treasure magical items, is that a big deal? Creating stuff, crafting, being the artificer or whatever, building a tower, developing your character's personality. The rules and tactical combat. Some people coming from tabletop gaming are really, really into that, and that's perfectly fine. It's a part of the game. Solving puzzles and riddles. Saving the day, being a hero, right? How important is that to you, your character being a hero? Telling an engaging story together. Just a fun excuse to hang out together in a different way. For some people, that's really all D&D is, and that's totally cool. A sense of adventure, a sense of excitement, right? A sense of this world being open-ended and alive. This is one that's important for me as a spontaneous DM, that they never can reach the edge. There's always something more to explore and experience. It's a living world for them. A sense of suspense and mystery and intrigue, the awe-inspiring, the fantastical, right? Interacting with inhabitants, making allies, making enemies, all of that. An opportunity to do some acting, to do some improvisation. Some people this is really important, some people this is really not important. I found this was a real flashpoint difference. Using your individual abilities in combat to overcome foes, or working together as a team to overcome different types of challenges. So you shining versus being part of a team, your team shining. Strange creatures and fantastical places. Growing in ability, overcoming increasingly difficult obstacles. Humor and camaraderie, right? Just here to have a laugh, here to have a good time, here to have some fun. And then more concretely, looking at the specific elements that could show up in individual sessions, as well as over time. So this is a great, more of a kind of survey to do at the start of a campaign or a flexible play series of one-shots. So what do you want? First thing, fantastic locations. And again, Mike Shea, aka Sly Flourish, has been great about, he's got these wonderful books about fantastic locations, and really talks about how important and useful it is to have a fantastic backdrop to your stories, something magical and otherworldly and wonderful that frames your stories. So what kinds? You want to go to the Underdark? You want to go to, ice caves and volcanoes, just the classic sort of high moors of a medieval setting, the ruins of Netheril, dwarven mines, on a boat, in small villages, in the scorching desert, where do you want to go? And then what kind of threats or foes do you want to face? So having credible threats in your world is another important aspect of this. What kind of threats do you want to face? This cruel, faceless bureaucracy, a bunch of giants, dragons, the drow, goblins, orcs, an army of undead, abominations in the Underdark, a bunch of thieves from Xanathar's Thieves Guild, or just these hilarious, goofy creatures, like just sort of almost cartoon-style stuff. What do you want, right? Next, what kinds of things are at stake that are going to matter to you and your character? And here we kind of lump them together because, again, you may not know your character as distinct from you, but you may know the kind of stuff at stake that'll be meaningful to you. So saving somewhere that's important to your character, vengeance, the Count of Monte Cristo kind of thing, preventing a terrible war, finding out the truth, negotiating peace, removing a curse, or just kicking ass and taking names, right? What's going to make it rewarding for you as a player? And then finally, getting really specifically at these kind of rewards. What rewards matter to you? Overcoming setbacks, growing in status with a faction, helping a friend or family member, unraveling a cunning plot. What's going to be the end result of all of these efforts that's going to make you feel like, yeah, this was a meaningful campaign or series. We really did something great here together. That's it. They hit submit, and then now we'll take a minute and we'll look at the results of that, some real results, and how I visualized it and thought about it and used it to inform my campaign. So stick around. We'll do that next. Okay, so next I want to talk a little bit about some of the results and what these mean and how I kind of interpreted these to the benefit of me, the benefit of my players, to make these more spontaneous, fun campaigns that feel like I'm addressing the interests of the players and of me, and kind of trying to strike a really good balance with the whole group. So the first one I mentioned is the kind of the current versus desired level of activity of the three pillars, right? Combat, exploration, and interaction, social interaction. And here, this is a visualization of the overall group's interest. So what they believe the current levels to be of combat and the desired levels, what they believe the current levels to be of exploration and the desired levels, what they believe to be the current levels of interaction and the desired levels. And these are stacked. So it's basically a summation of their 1 to 10 ratings of all of these, comparing each other. The overall picture I get here, what this tells me, is that they'd like just a little less combat and just a little more social exploration, more exploration in the world, as a way to kind of make a compromise to make everyone maybe a little bit more happy. But overall, things are okay. Things are pretty good. It's not wildly off in terms of the whole group picture. Now, what's also interesting, though, is getting into some of the individual pictures. Now, I've taken the players' names off of this, but player 1 here thinks we're doing a lot of combat and would like to see a lot less. We're not doing nearly as much exploration as they'd like, and they'd like a little more social interaction as well. So for this player, they're saying, half of our sessions are combat. But interestingly, you'll see other players, their perception of how much we're actually doing can be radically different. So one of the things it points out is that it's subjective. So all the players get to see, oh, you thought we were doing half of what we're doing is combat. I'm thinking half of what we're doing is social interaction. That's interesting. That just our own perceptions can be different from player to player. But also to see with individual players, like, okay, this player in particular, I really want to make sure we give them opportunities to explore in the world, and they're feeling like there's just a whole lot of combat going on. This player would like more combat. We're doing a fair amount, but I'd like some more. Exploration is about fine, and I'd like a little less social interaction. Actually, we're doing about 40% social interaction, whereas this person thinks we're doing 30% and 50% combat. So not wildly different, but they're saying, just tweaks about combat versus interaction for me. I'd like a little more. And exploration is fine where it is. This person just said, look, it's all dead on. It's all exactly what I was hoping for. It's just the right ratios for me, and I wouldn't change a thing, kind of thing. So it's just interesting to get these different reference points, and then to kind of aggregate it up and just to kind of say, okay, is there a tweak? Can I throw in a little more exploration here? Can I ease off on the combat a little bit? And it can be a great reality check, because you may be thinking, oh, this group, they're really, they're a bunch of ex-war gamers. They really want a lot of combat. No, actually, they want some variety. They want to try something different. They want to do a bit more of dungeon delving and exploration and traipsing through the woods rather than, getting really tactical with the rules. So it challenges your assumptions as a DM, and I think that's always a really, really good thing. So next I want to look at the results of some of these kind of broader, bigger surveys about the elements you might want to experience in your world, the credible threats, the different kinds of rewards that you can receive, all of that. So this, again, I've done as a stacked chart. What's nice is that you can see there's a lot of variability between the different colors here. Some people really are into one thing or not, and the proportions really change quite wildly. But when you add it all up and you're thinking about kind of the good of the group, what do we mostly all agree on? Well, in this case, this group, storytelling, social fun, and humor, everyone can agree those are really, really important to them. So guess what? it's that kind of group. It's lighthearted, it's easygoing, it's about telling this cool story, it's about using this opportunity, this fantastical opportunity and backdrop to have a lot of social fun, to make sure we have a lot of humor. But on from that, also developing the character, going on adventures, having, teamwork, having these fantastical things show up to interact with. That's all really important. The least important thing to this whole group is rules. Rules scores right at the bottom. Now, some people it's more important than others. Some people it's really not important. But rules are not necessarily, they're more a means to an end for this particular group, right? And they're not huge treasure and magic items people, right? They're not, you just throw a Vorpal sword at them and they're jumping up and down. They much rather, get into a pun war with the local tavern, master, than to discover some amazing artifact. So this can be really useful, just to kind of see, in terms of the range of opportunities in more detail that really largely fall under those three pillars: combat, social interaction, storytelling, and exploration. What kind of storytelling you want to do, what kind of, in more detail, what kind of form these three different core components are going to take. Another fun thing I did is I just took, so again, these are some, kind of summations of the full questions. And then I just took these words, and based on the frequency of these words, there's a lot of different places where you can get word clouds. So this really brought it home. What kind of group are we? We're a storytelling, social fun, adventurous, humorous, teamwork kind of group. We like realism and puzzles and a bit of acting and whatever, but we're just really not into this stuff that shows up like rules is really tiny and so forth. So this was just a fun burst to say, this is our group, this is what we're like, this is what we're about. And every group has a different flavor. Every group has a different kind of group personality, if you like. So playing to that really, I think, can help a lot with everyone starting to feel comfortable and lay the foundation to then be really, really spontaneous and to really know where to go. Like if there's a choice between, getting really serious about something or having a bit more of a sense of humor about it, we'd all like to just, keep it light, keep it fun in this particular group. Other groups have been totally different. Finally, when I talk about all the different elements, right? He's like, do you want to explore the Underdark? Do you want to, encounter the Cult of the Dragon? Do you want to, save a loved one or vindicate them from their, ill-deserved reputation? What do you want? I actually took that, and for this particular campaign, I made it into a statement. I made it into a statement that says, hey, based on the top 3 to 5 things you guys said you wanted in each of these categories, credible threats and fantastic locations and rewards and so forth, this campaign is going to be a journey to the fabled ruins of Myth Drannor. There's going to be some fantastical places along the way. You're going to stop either the Cult of the Dragon or the Drow. We haven't decided, from bringing about this apocalyptic war. There's going to be giants, dragons, maybe an evil lich or a power-mad prince. You're going to free and oppress people, save the life of a dear friend, defend an important place. You might be able to clear a family member's name, remove a terrible curse. It's going to have fantastic creatures, strange and powerful magic, daring combat, hilarious mishaps. You're going to fulfill this quest, risk your lives, save the day, grow in might, raise your status among your particular faction, the Harpers in this case. You accomplish what many thought impossible, be known as heroes throughout the realms for generations to come. So this is it. This is the teaser. Sound like a fun game? Well, to this group, it sounded like the most possible fun game they could play, right? Because they had crafted through their preferences, through me saying, hey, here's what's possible, tell me what you want. They went in and basically crafted this kind of synopsis of the kind of game we're going to be playing. One of the wonderful things about Dungeons & Dragons is that no two games are the same, no two groups are the same, no two campaigns are the same, no two individual adventures, even if it's a pre-printed adventure, are the same. So understanding your players helps you understand how that's going to be different, how that's going to be unique for you. There are a million Dungeons & Dragons games to play. Finding the one that really resonates with your players lets you know, again, like a compass, it lets you direct your spontaneous energy, your creative energy, your decisions in the moment toward those things that are going to light up your players with fun and adventure and enthusiasm. And when everybody's riding along in this great sense of enthusiasm together, it becomes effortless in a way. It becomes really, really a lot of fun. And that's the whole point of this ultimately. So I hope this was useful. I hope that you will go and download these particular questions and then change them, shape them, make them your own, so that you have a battery of questions you really like to help you shape plot summaries and graphs and different things you can share with your players having conducted these surveys, that informs you, that informs them, that opens up what's possible, and lets you all steer together in a really great, really fun direction.